Ladies and gentlemen, what is good, y'all? I'm the Chillmeister Chris Gary. You can follow me on Twitter at ChrisGary92. My partner, who you'll probably hear from in just a brief moment, is Andrew Benjamin. You can follow him on Twitter at ABenja1. Together, we are the two-man power trip, I guess, that make up the We Are Rising podcast, your source for all things about the Rising Fighting Federation and Japanese MMA and combat sports, or when there's something interesting that we want to talk about, or something that we want to focus on aside from face punching, we tend to shoot the shit. You can follow the show on Twitter at We Are Rising Pod. That's WeAreRisinPod, all in one word. Or you can check out the show on Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever other places you can get your podcasts that are legal and available to get them from. Basically meaning your podcast provider of choice. Anyways, in this interview, which we won't have a formal introduction for because the man pretty much speaks for himself, we'll be talking with Rising English language commentator Showdown Joe Ferraro. He's been the English language voice for the Rising Fighting Federation as far as play-by-play goes, alongside UFC Hall of Famer Frank Don't Call Me Twinkle Toes Ever Again Trigg for almost the entirety of Rising's 5-year existence, and has been a near constant presence at these Rising shows alongside Trigg since the summer of 2016. When he's not commentating on fights or basking in the glory of JMMA, he's a real estate agent, soccer coach, and podcast host like us, but he's a part of Fightful Crew, based out of Oakville, Ontario, Canada, near Toronto and Ottawa. Although this will be brief, we'll be talking with Joe about how he started out doing commentary, what excites him about doing a Rising show, and how he would convince a non-fight fan or a casual to watch the shows. His thoughts on the upcoming Rising 26 card and rejoining Trigg on commentary, and much, much more. Again, no need for a formal intro on this. We're going right in, and we hope you enjoyed along with us as we talk with Showdown Joe Ferraro on this very special edition of the We Are Rising podcast.
And we got Showtime Joe Ferraro with us. Joe, thank you so much for talking to us at last minute. I really appreciate it.
No problem. It's actually Showdown Joe. People have called me, I've got Showtime Joe. I had Shogun Joe back in my UFC days. I've had Sit Down Joe. I've had all kinds of stuff like that. But it's actually, you know what? I don't even know if I use Showdown Joe anymore, to be honest with you. I mean, that was the brand. That's what people know me as. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride. 20 years in this game, and things go up and down, and things change. But still loving it day by day.
Well, my apologies, Showdown Joe. Showdown Joe.
Don't worry, it's all good.
By the way, hello, Mr. Ferraro. How are you, sir?
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I just want to basically tell you that we're not going to filter your thoughts or anything, even though this is going to be like a short interview. But is there anything that you don't want us to talk about in this?
Oh, Chris, we already started. We already started.
Okay. Well, shit.
You guys can ask me anything you want. Don't worry about it. I mean, if I can't answer it, I'll let you know. But other than that, you can ask away. It's not a problem whatsoever.
My first question to you, Joe, is how does it feel back to be at Rising? It's been almost an entire year. How does it feel to be back?
Yeah. It's well, I mean, I'm sure you guys understand how the Japanese work and how they think and their business practices and stuff like that. So I'm so glad when I got the message from Shingo that listen, we're gonna have Frank and you back for the show here. Like I didn't even know what to do at the time last year once the show was over, because you never know. I've been in this game long enough that I treat every event like it's my last event. right? If you guys can see behind me, like those are all the UFC events that I covered, right? I've got frame after frame after frame of every single pass. But I used to tell my associate producers or cameramen whenever we went to any UFC show, even when I was sitting octagon side as an example, I would take a minute and seize the moment. Just seize it because this could be your last. I've always believed that. So if you seize the moment, you'll do your best work. You'll have a good time, and you'll it's good for your aura in general. So the last show for Rizin last year, we had no idea what was going on, and I learned a while ago that just treat everything, like I said, like it's your last time, and then you'll just be cool if it does end. And then after, then January came around, we didn't know what was going on, all the different situations that was happening with the broadcast partnerships. Frank and I had no idea if we were going to be back. So, on my own social media, I generally keep things as fresh and as correct as possible. I never removed Rizin play-by-play because I just didn't know if it was truly over. Maybe we were just on delay. And that delay went 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 8 months, to the point where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to wait till New Year's Eve. We'll see what happens with New Year's Eve. If it's officially 1 year since I've done a show, then I'll change my social media up and then just get back to what I'm doing. But then we got the message saying, listen, we're going to have you guys on. We're going to have to figure out how we're going to do it because you can't fly to Japan. If you fly to Japan, you're going to have to leave the beginning of December, and it's now too late. Then you have to quarantine for 14 days, and then all that jazz. So what do we do? Being the Japanese and modern day technology, they figured out a way to, we have another audio and video test tonight, but I'll be doing it from this room here. Frank will be in LA. I'll be here just north of Toronto, and we'll be taking it from there. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because, you basically saying you don't know when your next event is your last event. I mean, I originally thought that back in February when Matt Stryker was doing the commentary for Fight, that, y'all ran y'all course, unfortunately. But, yeah, it was kind of crazy to even think of Rizin English commentary without you or Mr. Trigg involved.
Yeah, that wasn't our decision. I mean, that's something that... and we knew Rizin. I don't know if Rizin really had their hands tied or handcuffed in any manner, but we understood what was going on, and it was cool. It's okay. It is what it is. And then we started getting messages like, when are you guys coming back? When are you guys coming back? And I'm like, well, we don't really have a say. We want you guys back. We want you guys back. It's not the same. And I didn't listen to the other shows. I didn't technically watch other shows. And, I don't know if it was a good job done or not so good job done. I don't mind. It is what it is. And you're not doing something forever. I'm not stamped with Rizin, although I do, I can't explain to you guys how awesome the shows are. Like, when you're there live, it is insane. And they treat Frank and I like royalty. And when I say royalty, I mean at the highest level of class you can ever imagine. So when you get treated like that, you're going to put in that extra effort. You're going to try and do your best. I've often been accused of mispronouncing a lot of the names, and I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? I'm doing the best I can. Like, if you think I'm purposely mispronouncing names, that's on you. That's not on me. Like, I do the very best I can. Again, I'm Canadian, so some of the things aren't going to come off like some people in the States or some people in Europe or some people in Australia are going to like or understand, and I'm totally cool with that. It is how I speak, but yeah, I do my very best to make sure that the pronunciations are done correctly, and we have a lot of fun. I mean, how many times has Frank ripped me during a show? Like, I mean, if you guys had a drinking game where how many times Frank Trigg rips Joe Ferraro on a broadcast, you'd be hammered by the end of the show, right? So that's we have a lot of fun with that.
Either that or how many times y'all rip Jason Herzog whenever he referees a fight or is near y'all.
Poor Jason. Frank and Jason, I know Jason very well. Obviously, Frank and Jason are very close, but who was it that he tossed in the Seago Ham fight where Seago Ham was sitting there pounding away in knees, and then he grabbed Seago Ham, he tossed her out of the way to end the fight. We're like, dude, that's violence against women. What are you doing?
That
right?
was the Tomo Maezawa fight that happened.
It was so funny. He felt bad. He's like, I have to stop the fight. What do you want me to do, right? So, yeah, we go off on Herzog a lot. But those breakfasts, those lunches and sushi events with Herzog are hilarious. So he's a great, great human being, to say the least.
So it's actually funny. One of the questions we did have was from Mike Fight Pizza. He wanted to know if you were going to be remote or live in Tokyo. You just kind of answered that. It's going to be remote. But actually, so I'll go into another question that a listener had. Our buddy C2 King Steel 24. He wants to know what your computer or mic setup is for this remote broadcast. So he wants to know the technical side.
Good question. So I have everything to the side here. I use a Snowball mic. It's a USB mic because I'm not using it now, but I definitely want that audio to be crisp because they're going to have to use when the feed goes to them. They want to make sure they're able to raise the gain. So you want to get the best type of mic that you have, and I have that USB mic. I've used it for previous broadcasts. I do it for voiceover work. It's been golden up until now. So that'll be the mic I use. The headphones, technically, you can use whatever you want, but what I'm going to use a Bluetooth set. They're not Beats headphones. I wouldn't mind using the Beats headphones, but they're very similar. They're Bluetooth, but they're going to cover my ear. Because what I want is when the event actually starts, I'm going to crank it up from my end. The trick that I taught Frank and Heath Herring back in the day, Joe Warren back in the day, depending on what we're doing, you want that level, if you're not in the venue, you want the level in your ears to be relatively that loud, not piercing, but loud enough to make you feel like you're in the arena. Therefore, if you're watching a fight, so it'll be here. It's an all-nighter for me, clearly, right? I'll be starting at 11 p.m., 12 p.m., and going to like 9 a.m. So it's going to be an all-nighter. So around 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm a human. I'm going to start dragging down and getting tired. You can only have so many Red Bulls and espressos, to keep you going. But I want that loudness in my ear so I feel like I'm in the arena. So when I'm calling a knockout or I'm calling a choke or I'm calling a transition in a fight, I have that energy. You got to have that energy because you're not there. You're not in the arena to see it. Remember, when we sit in the arena, when we're by the ring, it's 20 feet from us, 10 feet from us sometimes. They're really, really close. So you can sense it, you can feel it, but you're in the arena. When you're not in the arena, and we've done broadcasts before where we've been in the studio, crank up that volume, get into the zone where you feel like you're in the arena. That way you're able to call the fights accordingly, even though you're not there sitting ringside.
So basically, when you are trying to commentate an event, even if it means you have to talk over some of Lenny Hart's greatest entrances, you still have to make it sound like you're at least there. Like it makes it sound like...
So I've got a system. Yeah, I got a system. Never speak over Lenny. Let Lenny carry it, and then I follow. So, and Lenny and I have spoken about this because she complimented me about it before. I follow the cadence of her voice to the beat of the music, and she's going to announce. Generally, I would say 99% of the time, the fighter's name over the beat of the music. And I try and catch that cadence on the beat so that if she ends it on whether it's a snare or a kick drum, that's when I take it. Right? And again, the only person I'll never really do an introduction for is Miracle Crow Cop. Let that Wild Boys play until he gets to the ring, and then we'll take it from there. That's just out of respect to the hardcore, the old school MMA community. You let Miracle Crow Cop and Wild Boys. You don't need to say anything about Miracle. If you don't know who Miracle Crow Cop is, that's on you. I mean, I should do it, but I can do a quick introduction of who Miracle Crow Cop is and his history, briefly from when he enters the ring until the announcer starts, or the ring announcer starts making the call. So other than that, I follow Lenny's lead, and then from there, we try and match that vibe because you can't match her vibe. She's absolutely insane and awesome. So you do the best you can, right?
Exactly.
I think one of the things I'm gonna miss, for the live shows, whenever the show begins, they would always have you and Frank in front of the women, the Rising girls, the Rising. And I'm gonna miss that. That won't be here for that show, unfortunately.
That's a customary picture. It's Frank's wife who takes that picture. She's always there with us. It's just like it's the go-to beginning of the show. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen for the show here. We get a kick out of it. She's teasing us. She's teasing Frank. She's teasing myself. And, the other people are laughing. And they're like, how are you so calm when you've got, 8 beautiful women behind you? I'm like, it's just a shot, guys. It's just a regular introduction to a show. It's not like I'm going to talk to them and know who they are. They don't speak English. So it's a nice vanity shot. It looks beautiful. They look beautiful. And, it is what it is. And then we just start the show off.
I mean, when that picture gets taken, it basically feels like it gives a Vegas type of vibe to the show, It's like when you have the showgirls plastered around you and you're just trying to focus, it's basically giving off that vibe.
Yeah, but But I mean, focusing is no longer an issue. At my age, you've been around the world, you've been around the game long enough to not let it doesn't matter who's behind me or who's going on. And I think maybe in my 20s or 30s, that I'd probably start breaking a sweat. Like, oh my goodness, look at all these beautiful women behind me. It's one of those sort of, been in that situation many, many times. It is what it is, right? But I do get a kick out of those pictures only because once the picture's taken, she'll then send it over to me, and then I'll post it on my social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And the reaction that I get, not just from obviously complete and random strangers or MMA fans, but my own family and friends has me in tears for the better part of a good couple of hours, because I'll just keep checking the updates or the morning thereafter, and some of the comments are hilarious, but classy, but they're pretty funny.
Right. Actually, I want to ask about social media comments and all that stuff. And you kind of touched on it before when people criticize the way that you just how you say names. I'm just curious to know, how do you block out the criticism as a commentator and just all that stuff? Because you must get both lots of positive, some negative. How do you deal with all of that and just do your thing?
I get far more positive than I do negative, but I don't pay attention to the negative unless I can look at it as constructive criticism, right? People are going to rip you no matter what. If you're in the public eye, you're going to get ripped no matter what. The anonymity standing behind, or your phone, your keyboard, whatever it may be, people are going to do that. So again, been around, doesn't bother me one bit. Now, if it's constructive criticism, I'll then take that and be like, you know what, moving forward, the next time we do something, I'm going to take that. And even though it came out potentially as a hater saying something, doesn't matter. If it's constructive, it's going to make me better, I'm going to do it. I know for a fact, I don't do anything that is there to harm a fighter, his management, her management, whomever, her, or Ryzen, or anything that I do when I'm hired to do an event. I don't do anything purposely to garner any sort of negative feedback or hate. Therefore, if somebody wants to do that, that's not on me. That's on them. By all means, you live your own life. You got to do what you got to do. I don't lose sleep over it. I learned the lesson a long time ago, and I think it was UFC. Oh, doesn't say in the past there. Shane Carwin and Brock Lesnar. And I remember after the show, I was there, Octagon side, and watched how Shane Carwin could have won that heavyweight title, or unified the two titles at the time, because I think he was the interim champion, if I'm not mistaken. And then Brock Lesnar turning it around and winning the fight. The next day, while I'm sitting at the airport, I think it was Vegas. I think it was in Vegas. And just going through my social media feed and just catching some comments, I'll never forget some random person on Twitter calling Shane Carwin a meat sack. Right? You're nothing, you're garbage, you're a meat sack. And in my head, I come from a school where, I don't know if you guys remember Vladimir Venichenko. It's sort of the same school where you don't say something to anybody unless you can back it up, or if you're ready to throw down. So if I went to meet somebody that was twice my size and I said something to their face, that's because I'm looking to I'm going to throw down. I'm going to have to defend myself, because that bigger guy is going to probably, even a smaller guy or girl, if you're going to start throwing threats around or insults, you need to be able to back it up, because what you're doing is you're triggering or looking for a reaction that's going to trigger something that's going to be something that's going to end up pretty physical. When I saw that, I thought to myself, dude, you would never say that to Shane Carwin's face. Because first of all, nobody knows who you are. You've got all of 55 followers, if that. And you would never say that to Shane Carwin's face. Why? I know Shane Carwin personally. I know the size of his fists and the size of his hands. I know what it's like to be joking around with him, and when he puts his arm around you, give you a big hug, you're like, this guy's going to crush me, right? And I looked at that, I thought to myself, wow, the anonymity and the abuse of basically freedom of speech that people have to insult somebody, whether it's a man, a woman. I mean, look at half the stuff that guys say about women. Look at all the Black Lives Matter stuff. And all of that. I sit there sometimes and I wonder, that's not on the individual who's receiving 9 times out of 10 if their intent is fair. It's on the person sending. So therefore, if someone's going to insult me based on me simply doing my job and be akin to, me outside cutting my grass and somebody stopping their car and saying, you know what, dude, your house sucks. You don't know how to cut grass. That door color, that garage color, that paint is garbage. Who are you? I live here.
And you know what?
Keep driving.
It's kind of crazy, Joe, because, they basically, it's like the old saying goes, talk shit, get hit. They wouldn't say anything about Shane Carwin to their face because they know they would get their ass handed to them just like Jason Ellis did that one time when he fought him.
Right. It's exactly the kid. So again, to answer your question, Andrew, or whoever, I guess it was I don't know if it was you or a fan that asked the question. I don't lose sleep over it. I really don't. If it's constructive, it's wonderful. It makes me a better broadcaster, perhaps a better human. But if it's just they're ripping me apart because they don't like me, or I don't know, because I shave my head, or because I'm Canadian and some of the words come out with a Canadian accent, oh well, like just go live your life. It is what it is. I'm not going to lose sleep over it at all.
I get it. I totally get it. For Rizin 26, though, one thing I'm curious to know is, being in Japan, you have the opportunity to talk to the fighters, be at the press conferences, all that stuff. With that not being as you won't have as much access. How are you doing like research and getting familiar with for some of the fighters that you may not have been as familiar with, that have debuted like a few months ago?
Yeah, so today was basically, we call it the 18-hour interview day. So Shingo, our liaison, he interviews all the fighters, and he adds to our sheets that we have basically for the fights. At the same time, what I do is I love the Rizin Confession series on YouTube. I watch those religiously. I break them down because having been so lucky and blessed in what I do when I'm interviewing somebody, it's not just their answers, because I'm also playing a psychological game with them. They're playing a psychological game with me. It's no different than interviewing the Diaz brothers, right? Like, in order to get anything out of the Diaz brothers or the Brock Lesnars back in the day, you had to be specific in the angles that you were asked questions to get the answer that you wanted. It's also a mind game because you have to understand, where are they right now? How far away are they away from making weight? Are you dealing with a heavyweight who doesn't really have to cut weight? Are you dealing with a welterweight, a flyweight, someone that's in a miserable mood right now that the last place they technically may want to be is speaking with me about the fight. So I can't be there, can't do the interviews. Shingo's going to be there. They've got all, and he types beautiful notes and sends them over to us, or puts a file together for us to review. So I've got my own research that I do, obviously online, and going through some of the trends that I see in some of the fights, and who may have the edge. And I'll finish this off in a second. And then there's, again, like I said, the confession videos are just magical. Those YouTube series are just unbelievable. The quality is second to none. And again, there's a difference between the Japanese, the translation from English from Japanese. You have to understand, what is the fighter really saying there? What are they really trying to get at, right? And then you got some of the guys that are just, they're absolute, like Kinomoto and Hagiwara. They're F-bombing, they're talking trash. That's what we are used to here in North America. So that's easy to sort of look at. But the other ones, like, even Gomi thinks he's being, or Koji is kind of bullying Gomi, and what's Gomi's reaction? Anything Asakura. They're all saying that Horiguchi potentially he's already been knocked out, and you look at what was said about Horiguchi, how he doesn't want him to win, but how Asakura basically is now going to be in his head because he came in full blitz and then bang, he got popped, right? So there's that little mind game. Obviously Yamamoto, how's she going to deal with Hamasaki's exceptional ground game? If she's a wrestler, she's going to take her down. You're going to have to watch. So that's the kind of stuff that I break down. But at its core, it's just simply, do I really need to know that much information? I overanalyze. Right? And it's me being the perfectionist. Realistically speaking, guys, what's my job? Right? Introduce the fighter coming to the ring, and then stick handling, the old hockey analogy, you stick handle, you set Frank Trigg up for the goal. Right? He brings it back to me, I stick handle what I see in the ring, he finishes it off. Right? So I don't have to go too crazy. Right? It's not a history lesson, it's not a documentary that I'm doing. Just know enough so for the viewer that doesn't know some information about the fighter or the fight, share it.
Right, of course. And you know what? That kind of leads me to the last question we'll ask. You basically said you have your palms in a lot of different places. You're doing real estate. You're a commentator for, I don't know if it's a second division soccer team up in Canada or...
Close. Yeah, so I'm in the mortgage space, so the loan officer space, I guess you would call it in the States, but mortgages. So I help financing. My tagline is basically, I make happy places a reality. Mm-hmm. Right, I'll I'll underwrite your income and where you are right now to make sure we can get the financing for the property you want to buy. I've got tons of real estate agents that work with me that, will send me their clients. I also do, I'm the voice of what's called York 9 FC. It's actually York United now. It's a professional soccer team. So you guys have the MLS, or we have the MLS in North America, but the 3 teams in Canada play in the MLS. The MLS is a domestic American league, right? We now have a Canadian Premier League with 8 professional teams now, and it could be 9 coming up. Well, COVID kind of messed that up. But I'm the stadium voice of York United in my area. So, I do the introductions, goals scored, substitutions, obviously emergency announcements if we have to get people out of the stadium sort of thing. So, I'm also a head coach, and this is what my kids of the family gave me. I'm a head coach for a rep soccer team, my son's team. So that's kind of my passion. That's what I do on a regular basis. The MMA stuff, Ryzen is the only organization that I do play-by-play for. If I was to get offers again because I turned some down, just from timing perspective. But with my mortgage business and with the obviously the income and the what I generate with that, I'm now in the driver's seat. Right? If somebody wants me to do play-by-play for an organization, but they're going to offer me peanuts, no, you're not taking me away from my family and my son and my obligations.
You know what, Mr. Ferraro, I can understand all that, but the main question I was trying to ask is if people stop by, or people stop you by, or if they get you from the real estate job or from the PA announcing job for York United, I mean, how do you get non-MMA fans casually involved with caring about a promotion like Ryzen?
Yes, so you break it down, explain to them. So people will still stop me to this day, pumping gas at the grocery store, jogging down the street, whether I'm coaching a team across my region, and they know me as Showdown Joe. Right? So they will ask me what's happening in your world from the MMA space. And I always let them know, still doing Ryzen. If you guys remember Pride back in the day, Pride became Ryzen. I've been the color commentator with Frank Trigg pretty much from day one. And understand that the Japanese mixed martial arts culture and the talent in there can outweigh much of the talent around the world. And that usually stops it. What do you mean? Right? I said, if you ever get a chance, just Google it, just go on YouTube and watch some of the Ryzen content. Hey, forget about that I do the play-by-play. Just forget about that. Watch the quality of talent that you see there. I said there are 2 guys in Japan. They're the Diaz brothers of Japan, the Asakura brothers. The people are like, wow, what do you mean? I said, these guys, street fighters, they came from the streets. They fought in the outsider organization. They now compete at a high level in what you think is Pride, but now it's called Ryzen. And that kind of garners that interest. Also via social media, let people know that I'm doing this, doing that. I liked it better when I was able to travel there because you could sort of, follow I'm at the airport now, I'm leaving soon, see you in 14 hours, just landed here, and, get more awareness that way. It's harder now, but other than that, just getting people to realize that, come New Year's Eve, there is a fantastic card happening overseas in Japan that will blow your mind away. If you are a fight fan and you like high-quality fights, you cannot miss this show. You're going to be doing yourself a disservice by not tuning in or ordering this pay-per-view because Japan is completely different than North America. So I sell it in a manner to explain to them, they don't care about losses in Japan. They care about the performance. So if that's the case, then you're guaranteed, or for the most part, spectacular fights coming from 2 different fighters. So.
Right. So my last question to you, Joe, is before you head out is, which fight are you looking forward to the most?
Man, that's impossible to answer, dude. It is so impossible to answer. Obviously, the main event.
To be honest, because there's a whole lot to look forward to. But what fight are you specifically looking forward to the most?
Man, main event. Obviously, I want to see how Horiguchi does. But there's just ridiculous. Obviously, with Ota making his MMA debut, right? I mean, we're talking about a silver medalist taking out a veteran in Hideo Takoro. Like, there's so much things. Sasaki, how is he going to handle getting punched in the face after he had his jaw crushed by Asakura, right? So there's so many that look here, and I against Asakura, that's a ridiculous fight. Right? Like, they're just, it's going to be nuts. But if you want me to pick one,
which one has you frothing in the mouth that, like, I cannot wait to see how this goes down?
Yeah, it's got to be the main event because I don't think Asakura can. Well, I shouldn't say he can't lose. Neither one of those fighters can really lose because it's we're talking about an organic, developed main event that is argued. I'm going to think it's probably correct me if I'm wrong, maybe the biggest Japanese rematch of all time. I mean, can you think of anything bigger?
In modern time, yeah. No, in modern time, it's got to be. It's the only thing I can, other than, Tenshin versus Takeru from K1, it's probably the biggest fight that can be made in Japan right now. The
Takeru fight's going to be insane if they pull off.
Yeah. But right now, I think you answered. I would have also accepted Hiromoto versus Hagiwara just because they're throwing F-bombs and talking shit to each other. And I think
but that's old school, right? That's how the sport was started. Two street fighters going in. Now you got rules to follow, boys. Let's see what you can do. And the fact that, Hagiwara says, I'm going to slice this guy up with elbows. I mean, that right there is like, when that fight goes down to the ground, what's the first thing you're looking for? If he gets the mount, you're going to want to start seeing some elbows. So can he actually do it, right?
Two tattooed Japanese fighters saying that they're going to kick each other's ass and they're going to choke each other out. That's something you never see in Japanese fight.
It's something you would more so see here in this continent, in North America, basically.
Yeah, Hagiwara said he deserves a public execution.
Oh.
Yeah.
How gangster is that?
Very
exactly.
gangster.
Joe, before you go, we want to give you an opportunity to get out your plugs, anything that you want to, get out there to the world.
Yeah, listen, tune in, guys. Just tune in. Don't need to promote anything other than this fantastic show. I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed to be able to do it. I'm thankful for technology that allowed me to do it from home, despite the fact that, all of us are going to have to be watching it all night. It's an all-nighter, right? The Red Bulls and the espressos and whatever I can. I'm going to have to, create. The good thing about in Japan is we used to get bento boxes. You guys know what bento boxes are, right? Mm-hmm. We used to call it the surprise meals. You don't know what it is until you open it. So I'm going to probably design or create my own bento boxes here. Probably be super healthy because I've got to monitor my calories nowadays. But other than that, nothing really to promote. I really appreciate it. I can keep going if you guys want. I mean, I'm looking at my calendar now. My next one's not for another 15 minutes. So.
Oh, okay. Because you said 10:30. I didn't want to keep you. I didn't want to keep going.
I can go 10 more minutes if you like.
Oh, okay, sure. Actually, one of my questions I got asked is this: when you got the fight card from Shingo, whoever from Ryzen, and you saw, what do you think about this Shibatar versus TBA fights? Have you looked up Shibatar at all? And is
he not like the Logan Paul of Japan?
We don't want to compare Akitoshi Shibatar Saito to Logan Paul because those are two entirely different beasts to deal with.
I might be thinking of something else.
I think the YouTube thing. I think you're kind of on spot with it.
You're basically looking at the whole comedic YouTuber aspect, but at least Saito takes his crowd seriously than the damn Paul brothers.
Shibatar is basically a guy who. He's a YouTube guy who goes around and gets his ass kicked for YouTube videos. Asakura brothers both kicked his ass.
What?
Yeah. The exhibition fights.
Yeah. And he's having a TBA. So, I have never seen that in an MMA show where somebody's saying to be announced taking on somebody. And
it's Japan, right?
It is in Japan.
It's Japan New Year's Eve special. That's exactly what it is. Right? It makes full sense.
I don't know if this is going to be like a worked MMA match or if this is going to be like Ryzen introducing somebody I don't know, Bob Sapp or something.
If you think about this for just 1 second, around 12 years ago they had a fight between Bob Sapp and a guy dressed up as Kiniku Man, or as we know here in North America, Ultimate Muscle. And they had some guy dressed up in a suit of Ultimate Muscle, and Bob Sapp beat that guy. But that basically shows the type of mystery and aura that there is when it comes down to Japanese combat sports. Am I right, Mr. Ferraro?
Yeah, I mean, that alone sums up Japanese MMA. You have no idea who's fighting until the minute it's announced. Right? So, and I mean, if you think about it as the promotion, they're not going to give Shibatar somebody that he's going to beat. They're going to give him somebody that's going to, not someone that's going to be going to kill the guy, but enough to say, you know what, you are going to get your behind handed to you for a good 5 to 10 minutes. Right? That's what I can see there. So it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be great. Just to go back to the previous question before, the person that was asking me about what I'm going to be using. So the microphone, obviously, the headphones, and I use an iMac. So my iMac, obviously, it's got pretty good RAM. So there shouldn't be any issues whatsoever with my video quality and audio quality going to Japan and anything coming back. So I want to make sure we close that one off there.
Gotcha. I'm actually curious to know as well, what's been your favorite call for a Rizin show so far?
Crow Cup winning the tournament was great. That's always been wonderful. Tension against Floyd Mayweather. I can literally say I called the Floyd Mayweather fight, right? So, and Tension being who he is just a magical. Some of the stuff he does is ridiculous. I can't even. The guy's a human wizard, right? It's just ridiculous. But favorite calls, I'm thinking the Crow Cup winning the tournament that one year. So I think that's arguably one of my favorites.
Yeah,
I would have also accepted.
But we couldn't probably get over the fact that Joe Warren was being such an ass on commentary that it almost took away the feeling of the fight.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a little awkward, but when you're color commentator saying certain things, and you're just like, I can't acknowledge that. I legitimately cannot acknowledge that because that would put me in a precarious situation, and it's happened with almost every. No, I should say every. I've done shows with Frank and Heath and Joe Warren and Kamaru Usman and Jose Torres. Sometimes things come out of their mouth they don't realize. Dude, the world's listening. The world's watching.
When that red
I'm not acknowledging that.
You better not fuck up.
Well, I've also accepted your call of Bob Sapp versus Osuna Rashi because you and Frank Trigg, when you were on commentary for that, I was dying at the commentary between you two for that match.
Yeah, I think I lose my mind. That was insane. I think I lose my mind a lot when, two men, two ladies are in the middle of the ring and just throwing down and throwing down. Mm-hmm. And throwing down, and I'm just kind of, how is this happening? Like, how is nobody going down, and they're still going, and it's just, for me, it turns it into a field day, right? Like, throw, a lot of my professionalism out the window and be like, what am I watching here? This is insanity personified, right? So that's the kind of stuff I really, who doesn't enjoy seeing that? I love transition, I love grappling transitions, I love slickness, because, how fast can you call it as it's happening? And if the action is faster than I can verbally explain it, that's magic. That's complete and utter magic, right? So,
well, that's one thing like watching the first Hagler Hearns fight on repeat over and over again.
Insanity.
It's
sanity.
Well, that's what you brought up Tension before, and I'm always just wondering, like, how does somebody commentate a Tension fight? Because literally, he seems to be doing what. He seems to be 10 steps ahead of everybody else that's in the room. Yeah. And, by the time you've already gone, he went for a jab, he's already done 3 or 4 other moves by then. So, how do you even, commentate a Tension fight? Because it must be, that's got to be difficult.
It's a challenge because you want Frank to speak as well.
Yeah.
Right? But so many things are happening that he's there to break it down and explain. I'm there to call it. So if it's happening so fast, especially the Tension and Mayweather fight, I spent more time talking, and poor Frank wasn't able to explain anything until the replay, which is fine, which is his job anyways, right? But I was sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, what's happening here? It's crazy. So, calling a Tension fight at times is fun. But like you alluded to, it's challenging. Mm-hmm. It can be by the time you say something, he's done 3, 4, 5 different things. But the beauty in that is, so one of the things that gets said to Frank and I sometimes, and people are like, Joe, how do you know what's about to happen? It's like you've already seen it before it happens. But that's putting in your 10,000 hours, right? I've been doing this for so long that certain trends, certain things happen, and you know it's going to happen, right? It's akin to me being, now, can I physically do it? No. But I've seen it so many times that, well, if he does this, that's going to happen. If then it's going to happen, right? Or setups. I've seen the setups so many times, right? I can never stop them. If I'm in the gym or training, I can't. I'm too old now at this point, right? But I've seen it so many times that I think I know what's going to happen next. Right? And people are like, oh, it's like the fight is fixed for you. No, it's not. I know it's going to happen. You just see it, right? I'm wrong many times, but it is what it is. It's like Anderson Silva back in his prime. I used to tell people all the time, he sees fighting in slow motion. Right? He knows exactly what you're going to do. There was a thing when I had my TV show on here in Canada, Sportsnet. It's called UFC Central back in the day. And I had a segment that was called The Beginning of the End. Okay, and it used to drive me insane and mad whenever I would watch the NFL or NBA or NHL or whatever, when they would show a highlight. And being the coach that I am, it wasn't the highlight of the basket being dunked or the score, the goal being scored or the knockout or the submission. Where did it start from? Because something had to happen. So I would have this thing called beginning of the end. And the first time I used it, I think it was with when Silva fought Irwin. And Anderson was in a southpaw stance. And I remember watching it live. And Anderson's throwing his jab and southpaw stance. And he's just paying attention to what Irwin was doing. And all of a sudden, he switches his stance, knowing full well that the minute he went from southpaw to orthodox, bang, a kick was going to come. And as soon as that kick come, he grabbed the kick, bang, punched him in the face, game over. So what they were showing on the highlights was the grabbing of the kick and punching. I'm like, no. He was analyzing him. If I throw this, what's he going to do? If I throw that, what's he going to do? If I do this, that. That's the study of combat that I love the most, is to be able to look at something ahead of time and say, hold on, he's setting this up. Watch that right knee. That right knee's coming. And then, bang, when that right knee happens, Frank gives me that little elbow. He's like, nice. You saw that. I go, but that's set up. I can see it happening, right? But you can't really, like with a Floyd Mayweather or tension, you're not going to figure it out. You're just not going to figure it out, right? Exactly. But the other ones, you can actually see what's going to happen because I've seen it so many times. It's no different than when I'm coaching a game. Right, I'm coaching a soccer game, and I see something that I don't like, and I got to pull a player off to replace them, or I see what the other team is doing. The formation, well, they're heavy on the left side, so I'm going to load up my right side. I'm going to stall them, and I'm going to see what they do and what formation they're going to change, and I'll take it from there. Right, so it's no different than any other sport. I've done it before at Raptors games, breaking down the Raptors, and just what Nick Nurse is doing as a coach and what he potentially is setting up, what the opposition is doing. That's my favorite part of the sport. Sports in general is to be able to see and predict what's happening. And again, let me repeat, I don't know what tension's going to do. You can't pretty much predict that. The Asakura brothers, especially Kai, difficult. Horiguchi, I can sort of get some of the stuff, but it's just so fast, right? But the Yamamoto Hamasaki fight, chances are you're going to be able to predict certain things that Mia's going to want to do to set up the takedown. You're going to predict what Hamasaki's going to do when she gets taken down. Right, but it is MMA, right? You just never really know, but hopefully, right? So,
right. And you know what? One more question I have to ask. Obviously, you mentioned Floyd Mayweather and Tenshin Nasukawa. Obviously, you are the only other Canadian to commentate a match of both of theirs, aside from Mauro Ranallo, who's obviously one of the greatest Canadian broadcasters of all time. But every event that he treats gets treated like it's a big deal. Now, when you first started your commentary career, when you first started your career doing Rising events or MMA events in general, do you ever see doing fight cards as something like a big deal, or, it's just another fight?
Always a big deal. I think I understand your question, but it's always a big deal. Again, like I said at the beginning of the call, I'm lucky to do what I do. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a blessing to be able to do this kind of stuff because, there are so many other options that could be higher, right? But I've always said to myself, if it ends today, it ends today. It is what it is, right? I'm not going to lose sleep over it, but I enjoy it so much that, I will be sitting here alone in 24 hours and watching it thinking, man, when I go to the Saitama Arena, I'm always looking around. I'm just like, wow, how many incredible fights have I been lucky enough to call in here, but how many fights from the Pride Days happened in here that were absolute mayhem. Mm-hmm. Mayhem. So I know how lucky I am to be able to do what I do. When I used to do Titan FC shows, right? People are like, you're going to Florida, you're in the middle of nowhere. I'm in Florida, I'm a Canadian, right? Right now there's about 5 inches of snow out there, and I'm in Florida in shorts. My friends are at home, all freaking out and jealous. I'm loving life. I'm living it and enjoying it and sitting down and when I was at the ring there or cage at the time and just enjoying it because you never know who you're going to be calling, which fighter you're going to be calling, what's going to happen with that person, right? Or, male or female. So every event to me is I'm lucky. I'm beyond lucky to be able to do this, hands down.
Now, I don't know if you can answer this question or how much you can answer it, but has Ryzen said that you guys will be on English commentary going forward into 2021, or is this a one-time thing for Live Now? Is there anything you can say about that
To be honest with you, nothing has been discussed. I don't know, but in listening and having the conversations, I think with this format, if it's successful, I will not be surprised if they continue to do this. Which is fine, which is great. I mean, nothing compares to being at the venue. But I will have no issues whatsoever if this is the way, especially in the world of the pandemic that we live right now, if this is how we're going to be doing shows moving forward. Ideally, I would love to go to Japan at least once a year. Right, but that's just me being greedy. Right, that's just me being greedy. At the same time, if they say that, listen, you guys are never coming back to Japan, you're just doing the commentary from home, moving forward, then that I'll be completely fine with that as well. Whatever I can do to help Rise and whatever I can help the promotion get to the next level and continue to have this kind of fun, I'm down. I'm not complaining about it.
I hope it doesn't come to that. I hope that when this is all over.
For sure, though, is that nothing's for sure. You gotta be sure to make that impression on that fan trying to watch for the first time and think, this is something I'm going to go back to, for years on end, basically.
That's a fantastic point. So going back to when you were asking me the question before about, how do I treat some of the commentary, I treat it in a manner like it's this person is watching for the very first time versus this person here who's watching his 10,000th fight. Where's the bridge in the middle, right? How do you make it that the newbie understands? Oh, what's an armbar? Or wow, you can take people down to the ground? That's insane. And whereas the other person is like, I've seen that 1,000 times. That's a high crotch. He's gonna dummy him. He's gonna land him on his head. He's gonna elbow him to sleep, right? Where's that middle ground that you kind of make it easy for that first timer and okay for that veteran? You know what I'm saying?
Here's the real last question I have for you. Any Rise and intermission survival tips you got? Because you've been in that arena for, sometimes maybe an hour and a half, with an intermission. Anything you got for people that are going to be East Coast, or, over here? How can we best survive a Rise and intermission?
I don't know. I'm not going to lie to you because the Rise and intermissions for me are, you guys won't believe this, are an absolute blessing.
Oh.
They're a blessing, not the long ones, but
yes.
A blessing because I get to go to the bathroom. I get to go to the washroom because when I used to do Titan shows, I would stop drinking water at 2 p.m. Because I know the minute that broadcast starts, 6 o'clock or whatever UFC Fight Pass, whatever had it started, let's say 6 o'clock, I'm not getting up from that seat until midnight, maybe 1 a.m. So the last thing you want to be doing is pounding back water all day long, right? You're not going to be able to hold it, literally. At Ryzen, never a problem. Intermission, Joe, and I would always ask, how much time do I have? Well, you got about 25 minutes. Beautiful. I'll walk up to that bathroom over there. Done. Come back. When they told me that the intermission is going to be 80 minutes, 90 minutes, I'm like, you're going to lose everybody around the world other than the people in here, right? I don't right now. I'm going to be one of you guys within 24 hours trying to figure out how am I going to last if the intermission is, because I know right now there's 2 intermissions that are scheduled.
Yes.
Okay. But the beauty of this card here is they have to get people out of the arena, I think, by 8 p.m. local time.
Oh, right? Yeah, I heard about it. Yeah, something like that. Because
the subways are going to stop running.
Yeah.
So they have to get people out of the arena. Therefore, in order to do so, you got to move this card up. You got to move it down. Now, the problem is they do have other broadcasting situations down there where they have to adhere to. So sometimes when the fights go too quick, they have no choice because if the broadcast starts on Fuji TV at 8 p.m., but all the fights are done by 5:30 p.m., they have no choice. Right? So on the broadcast, I guess they can show replays. I don't know what they usually do generally. But other than that, they have no choice. And that's why those intermissions are so long. But I'm with you two right now and everyone else is going to be tuning in from around the world. It's going to suck. But I got to figure it out. So I don't know. I mean, I'm going to have some coffees made. I'm going to have my own bento boxes made. Anything to give me energy. Again, it's probably tomorrow night. It's going to probably be minus 5 degrees Celsius outside. I might just, in an intermission, walk outside, get that cold air going, and that's it.
Right? I was gonna say you should just open the window and just put your head outside just to get that freezing weather. That'll wake you up immediately.
I might do that. We'll see what happens. But I know it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge tomorrow.
In a way, it's like you said. It's your calm down period. It's the period where you have to, rest and recuperate. I'm not trying to say take a nap and, get right back up when the intermission's over. I'm just saying it's a way that you can, rest yourself, rest your voice, drink some hot tea if you need to, and then get ready.
Yeah, a little bit lemon water, guaranteed, you're right. But there'll be no naps. There's no naps. Dude, if I take a nap, it's game over. Frank will be on his own. It'll be on his own. I'm not taking a nap. I'll have to figure out how to stay up, but that'll be fun.
But Joe, if you gotta go now, you gotta go now. But if do you have any social media that you wanna plug or anything of that sort?
Twitter is Joe A. Ferraro. I look forward to hearing everyone's comments. I think Frank's wife is going to be running the Twitter, his Twitter account. So we do look forward to that. Joe A. Ferraro for me. Instagram is the same, Joe A. Ferraro, and on Facebook, just look me up. You'll see Joe Ferraro Mortgages or Joe Ferraro Mortgage Agent, and my personal one is just Joe Ferraro, I believe. But other than that, I'd love to connect with everybody on social media. I look forward to all of your comments. Again, haters, you can say whatever you want. It's not going to bother me whatsoever. Say what you got to say. But other than that, guys, I really appreciate you guys having me on. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say after the show. And, of course, I'm sure there'll be some comedic flair coming throughout the broadcast. And should I apologize now for what Frank may be saying about me on the show, or just let it go?
I don't know. I'll leave it up to you.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, you can go ahead and apologize in advance if you feel like it.
I'm pretty sure Frank's going to do it because he's not next to me this time, so he's going to take liberties at the fact that he's in LA and I'm just north of Toronto. I'm sure the whole Canadian jokes and the ripping me apart will continue, but we have a lot of fun with that. I got no complaints whatsoever about Frank.
But, yeah, we're looking forward to you and Frank being back on the back with the headphones and mics. Glad that it happened for New Year's. Really glad that actually got to happen for the biggest show of the year. Really.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Joe. We appreciate it.
Well, that was a fun interview, and I really hope that you all enjoyed it because, hey, we enjoyed talking to the dude, and we hope that he and Frank Trigg enjoy themselves. Just a reminder, Rising 26 will take place from the world-famous Saitama Super Arena in Saitama City, Saitama Prefecture, Japan, on New Year's Eve morning in the United States, which is midnight Eastern. But in the rest of the United States, and for that matter, the rest of North America, it's 11 p.m. Central, December 30th, and then it just goes all the way down. 10 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Alaskan, and 7 p.m. Hawaiian. If you live outside the United States, Canada, Mexico, or North America, you can check out live-now.com and order the event for $25, which is USD, of course. There's going to be close to 20 exciting fights and about 6 or 7 hours worth of exciting action, so please, don't be shy. Support the official release, support the official brand, support the official backing of the Rising Fighting Federation, and just check out the event legally. But aside from all that, we must bid you adieu. We bid y'all goodbye from 2020. We hope y'all will stick with us in 2021. For my podcast partner, Andrew Benjamin, who is on Twitter at abenja1. I'm the Chillmeister, Chris Gary. I'm on Twitter at ChrisGary92. You can follow the show handle at We Are Rising Pod. That's WeAreRizinPod, all in one word. You can check out the podcast on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast of choice. No matter if you pray to a higher power or if you just pray for peace and sanity, keep yourself and your faith first because no one else will do right by you other than you. And as the legendary Lenny Hart always likes to say, we are and we out this mug. Talk to y'all later. Peace out. Boom.